everyone. Today with us, we have Meghan Roten. She's the founder of MedLink Management. She started in the ABA field 10 years ago, entering as a registered behavior tech and program technician. She received her qualified autism service practitioner certification before deciding to make the switch into administration and pursuing her master's in organizational behavior management from Benedictine University. After working in quality assurance, Meghan honed her expertise in insurance compliance and RCM, which is revenue cycle management, recognizing their pivotal role in serving the autism community. Her passion for optimizing revenue cycles and alleviating administrative burdens culminated in the establishment of MedLink Management, a specialized medical billing practice. At MedLink Management, they are dedicated to streamlining revenue cycles, minimizing administrative complexities, and bolstering financial resilience for ABA companies. Their mission is clear: to enable organizations to concentrate on their core mission, delivering exceptional care and fostering positive transformations in the lives of individuals and families. We are so happy to have you with us today, Meghan.
Thank you both for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. We had people reach out and tell us, you need to talk to this person. So it was really cool that we could do that intro, and then we went back and forth, and we'll get to the surprise later, but we're really excited to be collaborating with you on this project that we're going to talk about today.
Me as well. Yeah, and I love getting that feedback that you guys are hearing about MedLink from other people out there too. So that's amazing.
So, we heard it in your bio, but maybe just giving a little bit about your background. I like starting off as an RBT. I mean, that's I don't know that I know any billers that started out as RBTs. So that's pretty cool that you this field, obviously.
Yeah, and I think it's really helpful to have that background knowledge. Honestly, it helped me in my administrative position working in the clinics, and then also as a biller, because I understand the language and terminology on when I'm seeing it, when I'm reviewing, reports before they're getting submitted for authorizations and compliance and checking those types of things. I do have that background knowledge. So yeah, I did start off as a registered behavior technician and moved into receiving my QASP certification. So before moving into the administrative role, obviously, side of things. So
what made you make that change?
I really enjoyed looking at the bigger issues that we were seeing within the clinic administratively and trying to problem solve those. I like puzzles and trying to figure out, the best resolution for issues. So that's how I got kind of interested in the admin side. Being also a program technician for a clinic, and I was more around the administrative team member as well as updating programs for, clients and RBTs and the BCBAs. I heard a lot of what the ongoings and operations of the clinic, and so that really intrigued me. Yeah, and so then I decided to go back and get my master's for organizational behavior management. Loved that. I loved my program. And after I received my master's, I worked with quality assurance in ABA clinics. And, that really put me on the path of insurance, compliance and regulations. And that kind of led me into the billing side of the ABA world.
Cool.
That's like a perfect combination.
Yeah. And can you just share a little bit about your company? Like how big are you? What states are you working in right now? Or are you planning on expanding? Just general stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So MedLink Management, we're still fairly new. I opened up in September of last year. It's myself and one other team member and she resides in California. I'm actually in Florida. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I'm down here in Florida, and we span across 15 states right now, but we are expanding constantly. So even right now, we have open positions and we're interviewing and, expanding so that we can serve more states and more funders and help out more clinics, across the United States. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to announce what we're going to be doing, April, or do you want me to do it?
Well, I can start.
Sure.
And then you can take over from there.
Sounds good.
So we heard you guys. We had put out a billing course before, kind of an overview of what does billing look like. And we heard you guys that you would like more information. And as more and more companies, well, as the standards are requiring us as BCBAs, BCABAs to know more about insurance, about the billing side of things. As more people are trying to make the decision of, am I just going to do billing myself in-house, or am I going to hire someone, or this is overwhelming and I just don't know where to start. So we are bringing another course to you, and that's Meghan will be teaching that course.
Yeah. So that'll be the three of us together working and having kind of a live 7 classes. And we'll kind of go over the design of the course and the dates here shortly. But it's really hopefully going to bring you through most parts. Now, just something that I'll say, the course is not. It's not going to say how Florida Medicaid does their stuff, right? It's not going to be
that specific.
How Texas, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Like, it's not that. This is not the course for you. If you need that kind of one-on-one help, contact Meghan. But what this will be is, I think, at least our hope, very similar to the last one we did, but hopefully a little bit better, is just the stepping stones. You're gonna find out how difficult and horrible billing is, and you're gonna outsource it.
Possibly.
Potentially, maybe, some companies might find it really intriguing. But yeah, I think that, oftentimes ABA companies do struggle with that. Do we bring it in-house? Do we outsource it? What's the benefits? What's the cons? I think there's pros and cons to both. And that's kind of where MedLink, honestly, we kind of started out because we saw a need for BCBAs, who oftentimes are the owners of the ABA companies, wanting to learn and understand the billing process. And even if you're going to outsource your billing, understanding that workflow of what is happening in your billing process is crucial. You guys, it's their livelihood, right? You guys should know what is going on with your claims, what's outstanding, what needs to be reworked, how to follow up on those, how to ask your biller about those items. So yeah, I'm excited for these courses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is really important, like you said, and that's something, in our ABA Business Leaders membership, we do have a small section on billing, and it's more about what questions to ask your funders than do this, do that. Because the issue with billing, at least from my experience, is that it's constantly changing. And if you have 4 or 5 funders, it is like every funder is starting to do things a little differently, what they require in session notes, what they don't require in session notes, how you do an authorization may change. Do you have modifiers? Do you not have modifiers? Are they allowed to concurrently bill? Are you not allowed to? Right. And so it's just keeping up with that stuff over time. If you don't know what questions to ask, forget it, right? Like I taught myself how to bill through Facebook. Don't do that. That's a horrible idea, right? I did that
6 months without being paid, right?
Yeah,
and you're like,
100%. Yeah, like I remember the first claims I submitted was like, obviously you can just put one claim, and the start date is like, I don't know, January 1st, and the end date is January 31st, and I'll put all my direct service on that one line. Easy. This is easy. Yeah, that doesn't work, right? Like, and so these are just like, it's so obvious looking at it now. But man, I made so many mistakes. That's not the way to do it. Yeah. And back then, 10, 12 years ago, like there really wasn't anybody out there. So it's great that we can, help people starting up, do these things. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you time. And so it's just really important to understand these things. So, yeah. Starting or running an ABA practice? Feeling overwhelmed with where to begin or how to grow?
You're in the right place. At 3 Pi Squared, we've curated a comprehensive suite of consulting services designed to tackle every aspect of your ABA practice.
Struggling with rate negotiation or that Optum audit?
Worried about compliance or how to set up your core values? We've got you covered.
We can also guide you through the essentials of running a smooth operation, effective hiring, staff training, and beyond.
But that's not all. Our consulting services are tailor-made for ABA practices like yours, focusing on sustainability, ethical practices, and quality care.
Join the hundreds of ABA business owners who have transformed their practice with 3 Pi Squared. It's time to turn your challenges into opportunities.
Ready to elevate your ABA practice? Visit us at 3 Pi Squared and let's get started.
Because together we can achieve more. 3 Pi Squared, empowering your ABA practice to succeed. All right, so everyone, you should now be able to see, if you're listening to this, we'll share a link in the notes of the podcast where you can download this tool. It is a essentials list for billing, and it has an ad for our billing class. So you can ignore the first page, or maybe you'll be interested in the first page. But the first page goes through the class. So we're going to be going through this in seven classes, about an hour long, depending on how many questions we get. Our hope is that you're going to come with a whole lot of questions, because we want to answer your questions, right? Like, who wants to listen to a presentation about billing? We really want to know what questions you have so that we can try to answer them. And if we don't have the answers live, we will do our best to find them after the fact so you can get those answers. So our first class is authorizations, just understanding the essentials of obtaining and managing authorizations. Class number 2. And if you're listening to this, the dates on here, the dates are on this sheet as well, so you can see that when you download it. The second class is going over the CMS 1500 form and understanding the billing codes. The third class is clearinghouses, which I'm very excited that we're going to be able to do this time. Got a lot of requests for this, so I'm really happy that we'll be able to go through a clearinghouse and just see how they work. I think it's very important. And then class number 4 is EOBs and remittance. So really important to be able to read these things, understand these things. A question that I ask often is, can you look at a remittance and know that you provided those services, right? Like, so even if you know nothing else about billing, hey, normally we see Sally 10 hours a week. Why is it 25 this week? Like, just even that high level understanding is really important to know. And then we go into class number 5, that is secondary billing. And then class number 6 is denials and corrections. And then class number 7 is ask us anything. So just bring all your questions, and we will do our best to answer those.
Yeah, so all of our sessions will be live, and they will be recorded if you can't attend that specific date and time.
Yes.
And the recordings will be available to you for 6 months.
Yes.
And I don't know, do we have a cutoff, or?
We will have an early bird special for the next 2 weeks, but I don't know when the cutoff is going to be at this point. You'll have to go to the link and see it.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening, I will say the first class starts January 4th, and it runs June 4th.
I don't know.
That's just the kind of day I'm having today, right? So June 4th, and it runs through September 24th. So we've kind of also taken feedback from previous courses like this that we've offered.
Too much.
And we just kind of were, spacing it out across a few months to kind of give everyone time to digest it and take in the information and be able to practice some of these things to have questions to bring to the next class.
And yeah, so I would, we are recording the events, like you said, April, but if you can make it, right, or maybe you can't make it, but you have an admin person that is like, yeah, I'm going to take this on, or you have another BCBA that can come in and listen. highly recommend that you have somebody come to those live events, because it is really important and we want those questions. I know the last billing we had about, I don't know, like maybe 30% of the people showed up live, which was, it's okay. But when we did our rate negotiation, we had like 80% people came that signed up, and it was just a better class, right? It was just, you got the interaction between people, and we found out stuff that we didn't even know, right? So like that can be very helpful to learn from each other. It's just, it's a little less.
Stephen, who wants to sit and listen to someone, go on and ramble on about billing for a full hour? You want that interaction. I want those questions, so that, because this is going to be more general, right? Generalized, because we're not going to be able to dive into state by state specifics or funder by funder specifics. And so it is going to be broader, but if we have those questions, I think that it's going to be a lot more intriguing for those attending and watching.
And definitely, and even for a sense of community, because something that we hear from most of you guys listening who are ABA business leaders is like, it's kind of lonely, right? And so being together, like whether you're, in the admin piece or the clinical piece, or you're wearing all the hats, knowing that you're with a group of people who kind of get your world and what's going on, it can be helpful too.
And then I'll just show you a couple other things on this slide. So it's not just an ad. So we do have 10 recommendations. If you're like, dude, I'm going to do this myself. I did it myself. I did a horrible job myself. I did eventually get really good at it, but I made a lot of mistakes. So, these are 10 recommendations that you should think about before starting to bill. And then we have 10 recommendations when you start billing. So these are really important things. I highly recommend you doing them. There's more than 10. I can promise you there's more than 10 things. But these are really important 10, and then there's a whole lot more. So coming to the course may help you. Just seeking Meghan out and even doing some one-on-one consultation, I think could be beneficial. Again, even if you're going to outsource it, like, the kind of life cycle that we see, and I don't know what you're seeing, is like BCBA starts the practice, and some people take it for 4 weeks, some people take it for 2 years, but there's some point where they're like, I'm done with this billing stuff, and they outsource it, and then they grow, they get to a big enough size. And then they're like, we got to bring this back in, right?
It makes more financial sense to bring it back in-house. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the life cycle that we see and we encourage, right? If you have the time to put into billing on the front end as an owner, do it, because you should learn that process. If you're already to the point where, you're too large and it's just not feasible, even our current clients who outsource their billing to us, I still will do a weekly call with them, especially on the beginning of their taking on their billing services, to train them in just at least the workflow, so they can track their claims, see where they're going, so they can be involved, right? So that we're accountable, we're held accountable, they can follow up on things. They know that we're, being transparent with them. I think that's really important. And then, like you were saying, you're absolutely right. You get to a point where you're too large in the payments that you're paying on a third-party biller, it adds up to essentially a salary, and bringing that in-house makes more financial sense.
Yeah, I know when we had our practice, like I said, I learned how to bill terrible, but I did it, and then I trained.
You did fine.
I didn't do fine. I promise you. And
you made a few mistakes, but that's how you learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can remember, like, April and I spent our weekends, right? Like, we would work our regular 55, 60-hour work week, and then our weekends were billing, right? We would take the paper timesheets and convert them into an Excel spreadsheet so that we could take that information and pay, send the invoices
stacked up
to the
and
clients.
Across the living room floor. Yeah.
And when we had, like, we were still doing this, and we probably had 40 clients. Like, it's like, you can't do this anymore. Yeah. And so then we got a practice management. We created a practice management software and eliminated a lot of that those mistakes. That was where. So, and I know there are a lot of people that love paper pencil. They still do it, but it's like that was out of all the errors that we had. That was the majority of them. Is the transferring from the paper, the Excel, to the CMS form or to the clearinghouse. That was like 90% of our mistakes, right?
Right. And there are so many practice management software options out nowadays. And truly, it's the initial billing process of that workflow. It can be pretty automated nowadays. So if you ensure you have your practice management software set up on the back end to perfection, and you're pulling in your service locations, your billing locations, your diagnostic codes, all of those pieces are entered accurately in your PM software, a lot of your errors are going to be mitigated just with that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other big thing that a practice management software can help with is recoupment audits, right? Like that is a stressful time anyway, and having to go through your paper pencil session. Oops, that one got ripped up, or we spilled coffee on that one. That's not the time to find these things out, right? And so having a practice management software is so important. So I highly recommend everybody get a practice management software. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then, the other thing that I will say is we tried 3 times with highly recommended billers to transfer our billing, because like there was some points where I'm like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. We tried 3 times, and all 3 times it was a big old failure, and I ended up having to take it back, right? So can you just share, because again, the feedback we got was like, you're very helpful and it's not like a secret with you. So can you kind of share your methodology and how you work?
Yeah, I mean, it really isn't anything, it's just transparency. And I think that is the big thing. I think, unfortunately, there are billing companies out there who oversell and overpromise a little bit. And if they're not transparent and you don't have that open communication, you go 3 to 4 months without really realizing that, you have so many outstanding claims, and you're kind of asking, hey, where's that constant flow of revenue, right? So really that's it. I'm training on pieces even if I'm doing the billing services for a company, we're training on pieces so that they are understanding where to find that information. But yeah, it's not a big secret. That's the difference.
Yeah, it really doesn't have to be, right? Like we can all, yeah, and so that's what we try to do too with our training. Like I'm gonna tell you what I know, and like I'm not gonna say, oh, this is mine. I'm not gonna tell you got to come back to me if you want it. Like, come on. So I like that was something that it was great to hear, because I know like even some of the highly recommended billers that we had, I would get feedback from, oh, you really probably shouldn't be recommending them. So it's hard to find a good biller, and that was my struggle. I know a lot of people have come to me and said the same thing. Man, I just want somebody that I can talk to, and they, I hear often too, like, oh, it was great for the first month, and then I was in the system, and then it kind of fell off. So it's nice to get some feedback that it doesn't have to be a secret, right? So.
Yeah, and I think too, Meghan, the fact that you have some ABA experience and background in it really brings to the table. And I love the fact of your transparency and communication with your clients, because that's super important, and it really aids in collaboration, and we can all work together to learn all of this.
Yeah, it instills a level of trust from our clients, and they're never questioning, where's that check? Where's that income, right? Even these pieces, but even on our contracting and credentialing, we're CCing all of our clients on those correspondences with the funders, because it's not a big secret, right? They should be aware where they're at in the process. And it helps them understand the process and the workflow of contracting and credentialing. So that's what we want.
Yeah, and that's something, we've talked about this too many times with credentialing, right? Like it's just so important, and I hear it all the time. They gave me my contract, but I didn't get my rates. I didn't get my provider manual. They signed me up as
who to reach out to.
Right. And they signed me up as a single provider when I'm a group. And it's just like all these nightmare scenarios, and you're paying money and they're keeping it secret. So yeah, it like we always say, you have to be CC'd on this. You unfortunately, you have to know about this stuff, right? Like this is the livelihood of your company. If this doesn't work, nothing works. So, and that's terrible that's the environment that we're in, but it's so important, right?
It doesn't matter really. This is one of those things that you can get someone to help you with, but as you're saying, like this isn't one of those parts of running your business that you can just give to someone and get a check-in quarterly. You really have to be aware of what's going on, and you really have to be a part of it. Right. And it is really wonderful to have someone, like your company, Meghan, to come in and help and like really lead that whole effort, and to also teach you and to guide you through it and communicate along the way. But ultimately, you're still responsible, right? Like as a business owner, you still have to be part of it. But at least you're not alone doing it all by yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And you know that you have someone on point for that contracting or whatever the assignment is, right? You aren't necessarily taking that on as a responsibility, but you are involved in it. You know what's going on. I was talking to a brand new BCBA who was wanting to go out, and she wanted to contract and credential. And she asked me honestly, how difficult is it to contract and credential? I said, it's not at all. It's not that difficult. It's an application and following up. I said, if you have the time, do it. But if you don't, then let's do it together. I'll CC you on all communications. I'll run that process for you. Because that is the reality too, is that a lot of owners are BCBAs, and they are going to be the primary supervisors for a while until they get up and running. And so they have a lot on their plate.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we end, is there anything that you would tell new business owners, anything that you would avoid, or things that they really need to be looking out for if they're wanting to take this on kind of on their own?
Yeah, if they're wanting to take it on their own, have someone that can help guide you through it. You don't want to be in a situation where it's 6 months without payment, because that can really be detrimental, especially to a young early company. And if you're not wanting to take it on and you are outsourcing, ask for references. Ask for references from the company. They should be open to giving those to you. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
Cool. Yeah, the last billing course that we did, we probably interviewed 15 billers, and many of them said, "Oh yeah, I can do ABA." And then we talked to them a little bit about. No idea, right? Just no idea at the codes, right? No idea that pre-auth is normally required, or at least typically required. Just didn't know the codes, and I'm like, why just tell us the truth, right? Like, so yeah, absolutely getting references from other ABA providers, not from speech, not from OT. Like, you can be a great speech biller and have no clue what goes on in ABA. So just really important that you get it from other ABA providers. Yeah, absolutely.
Couldn't agree more.
Cool. All right, April, you got anything?
Well, no, I'm just really excited for the course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll have the links to the course and the free steps to get started and to avoid for everyone. We'll have that in the notes of this podcast. And on the product, we'll talk about the early bird special that we will be having for the first 2 weeks. This is probably going to go out next Thursday. What is that? Next Friday? What? That's the 9th?
10th?
The
9th or 10th?
It's the 10th.
10th. Nice. The 10th. So you'll have 2 weeks after that to get the early bird special. And then the course, like you said, April starts on June 4th.
Not January.
June 4th.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Meghan. And I'm really, truly excited to learn more with you over the next couple of months.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.